Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Rushcliffe series. This is the southernmost district in Nottinghamshire and it contains 59 civil parishes of England. And there's some corkers down here. Let's dive in and check one out. Welcome back to Rushcliffe again, everybody. Now today we're going to be seeing a very familiar river. Now sometimes when we talk about rivers we talk about ferries which used to cross them. Well, here in this place there is a ferry that still crosses the river and it's one of the most unique ferries anywhere in the United Kingdom. Welcome to the parish of Normanton on Soar. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Normanton on Soar, Northman's town on the flow of water. Hello folks, time for another village on the banks of the River Soar. We're not done with this river, not by a long shot, but this is the last time it'll make an appearance for a while. It does so in the beautiful riverside village of Normanton, or Normanton on Soar, to give it its full title. Normanton appears several times in the Domesday book as Normantune. The name has got nothing to do with the Normans, even though you initially might think it does. Instead, it derives from the Anglo-Saxon Northman's tun, meaning Northman's farm. It was believed to be first used sometime between 870 and 940 AD. Occupying a low-lying piece of land in the Soar Valley, Normanton was once part of the Paget estate, which we learned about in Sutton Bonington. In the 19th century, the family owned quite a lot of land here. Their influence can still be seen in various places around the village, and they would be responsible until 1981 for the maintenance of what's become Normanton's best-known attraction, a boat, like none other we've ever seen before. Still fully operational, the craft in question is used now at weekends only. Normanton also has a boating club, a pretty medieval church, and a type of rare building on its main street, the only one in the UK that's lived in. Let's go find it all. Before we get cracking with the walk, we first have the small matter of an old railway station. You'll recall from the Sutton Bonington episode that there were two stations in this area once upon a few decades ago. In that video we covered Kegworth, here it's Hathen. Like Kegworth, it was built by the Midland Railway on a line initially opened in 1839 between Loughborough and Long Eaton. The station was operational between 1868 and 1960, and despite being named for the village of Hathen in Leicestershire, it was geographically closer to Normanton and Sutton Bonington. The station buildings remain today, vastly extended, and they're in use as the old Hathen Station bed and breakfast. A fair number of accidents occurred close to the station, the worst coming in 1871 when a mail train from Leeds to London derailed between Hathen Station and Loughborough, injuring 7 people. Normanton now has no station, but it can claim to be the base of a rather notable local bus service. Let's head into the village and see what's so special about it. We begin this walk around Normanton at a local football pitch on Moor Lane. This is the home of the Kegworth Imps Junior Football Club. They provide football for young children from the age of 6 who play weekly at this humble little ground. This area also features a garage. It's the home of the Soar Valley bus, which we've mentioned a couple of times before. It has 7 routes which connect these Rushcliffe villages to various places including Eastleek, Loughborough Market and 2 Asda stores in Long Eaton and West Bridgeford. Now for a walk down Moor Lane into the village. This isn't the most exciting street ever built, it has to be said, and it's mostly modern properties. It features 2 very modern cul-de-sacs, which can be found on the left-hand side just before you meet Main Street. This area is not typical of what Normanton village is. The oldest and most historic properties here all line the riverbank, and some of them are huge. Normanton was once a part of the Paget estate, which was based in Sutton Bonington, and in places, it's easy to tell. Main Street isn't wholly straight. It begins in a fashion perpendicular to Moor Lane before it turns a corner to run parallel with the riverbank. On the bend, these houses are a clear indication that this was once an estate village. They just have that sort of feel to them, don't they? Directly opposite is the Soar Boating Club. Founded in 1953, the club acquired its current position on Main Street in 1961. This is for private members only and has around 100 boats. Annually, the club holds its main rally in May over the spring bank holiday. Not far away is the phone box, and this one houses the defib machine. Beyond this, property starts to go up a notch. There's a handful of farmhouses and converted old barns along Main Street. These are pretty good examples of them. Main Street also has the village school. It isn't the original though, it's a modern affair which replaced a board school which dated from 1876, built to cater for 60 children. Outside the school is the parish notice board. That's 8 down now in Rushcliffe, just the small matter of 51 to go. No sweat. The central part of Main Street has the biggest buildings yet, and they include the enormous Normanton Manor House and a beautiful thatched cottage directly opposite it. This is the latter, and isn't it fabulous? The manor house was built in 1863 on the site of an earlier building which was 15th century. The original building was destroyed by fire. There was no record of the architecture, but it's known to have been built for Thomas Westland Rowland. The Paget family also lived in the property sometime in the 19th century. Next we have the Plough, a former coaching inn that can trace its roots back to the 1600s. Like most of the properties on the southern side of Main Street, this has access to the riverbank. Next to the Plough Inn, but separate, Soar Lane offers access to a slipway for launching rivercraft. Dead opposite we have the Green. This sign tells us Normanton once won the annual trophy for the best kept village in Nottinghamshire. It doesn't say what year though. There's also a bench here under a tree which commemorates King Charles III's coronation. Housing-wise, we've already seen some absolute crackers, like this one for example. However, the next one is the best yet. Dating from 1454, this is the old post office and it's what's known as a Cruck building. It's the oldest property in Normanton. A Cruck is a timber frame building with long, naturally curved members that form an A-shaped roof. Pictured now is the interior of another example, Lee Court Barn in Worcestershire. Normanton's Cruck though is unique because it's the only one in the entire country that's lived in. Now we come to the church. Dedicated to St James, this one is medieval, having been built in the 13th century. It's Grade 1 listed and stands on the bank of the River Soar on a mound. It's one of only 2 churches in Nottinghamshire that have a central tower crowned with a spire. The other one is in Wotton-in-the-Vale, a fellow Rushcliffe Parish. St James's most notable feature would be a royal coat of arms, that of Charles II, which sits above the chancel arch. It dates from 1683. Now, I would have liked to have got closer to this one, but it was impossible, I'm afraid. Hopefully you didn't notice, but there's actually a funeral going on literally right now. I had to be so careful with what I captured there. I've of the church. I did ask the undertaker, or whatever you call them these days, whether I could walk through the churchyard, because my route follows the footpath that goes right through the churchyard that brings us to the River Soar. So I kind of had to go through. There was no two ways about it. There was no other route I could have taken, because this is the thing that I've come to see, the Normanton on Soar ferry, which is the next thing to talk about. Probably the most important part of the video, actually. Normanton on Soar has for many years had a very unique tourist attraction. This is the chain ferry, one of the last remaining ferries of its kind anywhere in the UK. It dates back to at least 1771 when it was first mentioned on a map. It's now the last chain ferry in operation in Nottinghamshire after the Hazelford ferry we talked about in Bleasby ceased operation. Here's the ferry boat itself. Chain ferries work by way of an actual chain that's attached to both shores of the river. In the 19th century, chains were largely replaced by wire cables. This information board tells you about the history of the ferry, and this can be found close to what I describe as a collection of riverside lodges or ferrymen's houses. Until 1981, the ferry's maintenance was down solely to the Paget estate. After that, it became the responsibility of the parish council. It closed for a short time, but since 2017, it's offered summer crossings every weekend between April and September. The current fee per person is £1, and it's 50p per dog or bicycle. It's operated completely by volunteers. The path back to the village is permissive, and it brings us to the village hall. This is very new. It was built in 2007, and as well as functioning as Normanton's main communal space, it's also the location of the community shop. The shop is open from Monday to Friday and on Saturday mornings. The hall is also surrounded by a massive 5 acres worth of playing fields with an outdoor children's play area. And as if all that wasn't enough, the local allotments are located here as well. That's another patch for the fans to add to their growing collection. Running behind the allotments is our path back to the beginning. This footpath crosses 3 fields, 2 of which are directly behind the school. There were a few local residents in these, although they didn't chat much and were a bit woolly for my liking. Our last street is Far Lane, a dead end which terminates at the Midland Main Line. Wholly residential, the only landmark of note along here was an old Wesleyan chapel. It's not the original village chapel though. That was built in 1832. This one replaced it in 1889, and it closed its doors in 1930. And that'll do us for Normanton on Soar. It's not every day you come across a place with a working ferry, but to find a chain ferry is even rarer. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Maybe during the summer this year, I might return to try the ferry out. It's got to be worth the nominal fee. Anyway, I'll see you next week as we head deeper into Rushcliffe. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.